So we took it to Easton, Maryland. Will you make the map and make the little red line move to Easton, Maryland?
We can do that.
That's so corny, like Indiana Jones style. I'm not very good at tracking when I'm not expected to. Like, John a lot of times would go, well, you know, the vocal mic is up. You could just do a take and this could be it, while we were still doing basic tracks. I couldn't take it because it wasn't time yet. So moved everything to this house, literally a living room in this house on this lake in Easton. And we just started. We'd set up and pull the tracks up and hear what we had done in New York through these little monitors in the living room. Just started going.
You look like a Chesapeake Bay rocker.
Let it be known that I'm not playing guitar on the song. It's John Elation. The thing about Room for Squares is that it was an example of execution only. I had demoed all these songs so many times at home. I mean, it was just a matter of execution.
There's some badass shit in there.
You like it? So when it came time to go to Easton and sit down and record this record, it was just like, all right, what do we want to do first?
And this is the VibraSlap. This is a pretty arcane-looking device, I know, but it's made to be mastered. Certainly not to be learned in a day or even an afternoon.
83 was the VibraSlap. I just went, I hear a VibraSlap here. We got to get a VibraSlap. So we drove out to a Guitar Center and just to get a VibraSlap.
So first, we start with warming up. So I'm just going to do some light calisthenics. And do the same thing to the left. You have to stay symmetrical, because if you'll notice with VibraSlap, it's perfectly symmetrical in every way.
We went. Nowadays, you say to someone, I need a VibraSlap. There's some guy who tells another guy, go get a VibraSlap, and he goes, you got it. We got in a car and drove, you know? And there's something about making a record where you're the person involved in it. There's nothing else like it.
If heaven's all we want it to be, send your prayers to me.
We were there for about 3 weeks, but what happened is, and nobody knows this, I got really sick. And all I wanted to do was finish the record. We were so close to finishing the record. And the vocals just wouldn't work. So we eventually had to reconvene in New York with Lee Dene, who was the A&R person. And she said, go home, man. Go home for Christmas. We'll come back in January and we'll do it again. And looking back on it, that was a really great thing because I was able to live with these tunes for a while, figure out where I want them to go, what else they need, what should I change lyrics, should I change the way I sing them? And then we ended up finishing vocals at a place in Brooklyn. And the reason that's such a great thing is because this record happened in 3 stages, each stage being a completely new setting, emotionally and physically, that just kept redefining what the record was. It was almost like this assembly line that you run to the next part of the line and catch it as it comes down. And the record has a lot of personality because of that. I'm going to show you how I get around the country, to and fro, and back again. Let's take a walk down here. Once the record was finished being recorded, even as it was being mixed, we had scheduled more dates to go play shows. This is the Ram 3500. Considerable improvements from the 3200. First time I toured was in a minivan, and then we started renting vans. And we got pretty far along before we had actually purchased our own van. Would we like a bus? Absolutely, but I think it's pretty indicative of sort of where we're at, and there's only 3 people, so it's nice. It's our little home away from home. The real groundwork was done by myself and David LaBriere playing bass, and Scotty Crow, who kind of became another band member who didn't play, who was driving. And we went around the 3 of us went around the country. You know, we went around the country in this van. We would play these shows, just me and David acoustic. Being in the van, you're forced to take off the surface of like being a musician. You're not a musician when you're in the van. You're a guy whose hair is all a mess, who hasn't taken a shower in 2 days, and you're with your boys. See this? You see this, and then you see this? Mm-hmm. You know why these socks match?
Why is that?
Because they're both clean.
You know what's funny about being on the road? All the different and progressively stranger names for the local stores of like a large chain gas station. Oh, I'm going to Scotchman to pick up some milk.
Little Dan, see? Little Dan's. Oh, we're just going to Little Dan's? We did some foolish stuff. Who thinks it's a smart thing to travel hundreds of miles a day but yet have drinking contests in the van? Who can drink the most water? I'm not a drinking man, but I love myself the water, and I feel like I'm getting really good at chugging water. I can knock this thing back in no time. I did 1.5 liters the other night. You're taking a whole day off to drive hundreds of miles, and you're making 6 stops an hour, and continue to chug water for fun.
Water.
We would go to the mall a lot. We used to rate malls. We went to the mall all the time. I'll tell you where the best malls in the country are. And one of the stores I stopped off on, I bought this Simpsons character, Ralph Wiggum decal that went inside the van. And I used to just watch the road go by through the window and line up the ground with the waistline of the Ralph Wiggum decal. When you get that bored, you start to try to give him land pants. It's very micro amusing when you're in a van. When you're in a bus, the person who's driving gets paid to drive, and that's their job. And there's no underlying sort of guilt that I haven't driven in this much time or that much time. And you see the road go by, which is something that when you're on a bus, you don't get a chance to do. Your head is literally against the glass, and you see the signs come by. How many more miles? I mean, you see the truck stops, the fruit stands, you see the mountains, you see weather patterns happening miles and miles away. Looking back on it now, you go, well, how did you do that? How did you sleep in a van? That was it for me. I mean, that was the height. And I think if the more you can just ride the top of that wave, there's no relativity at the time. There's no like, oh, I wish we were in a bus. It was, I'm glad I'm not in a minivan.
I like the idea of beginning someplace that's pretty scaled back so that you can open up from there. So I made a record that is very much like a mixtape of different things that it's like the sampler CD for the rest of my career. So I think I wish I could make records faster, you know.
It's almost like taking pictures on a camera with no film in it before you have a record. You're making little statements for that night and that night alone, and it dissipates and it goes away. And then you put a record out, and all of a sudden you're representing something. Now you have an almost kind of biblical reference to the way your song should be. And that was amazing to go on the road in support of a record.
You ready? Wanna do it? Wanna go out and do it? You two wanna go on first?
Yes.
Near you. No, near me, you. No. You near me. You near me.
I will be near you the entire night.
You near me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Belly Up Tavern. Will you please put your hands together for John Mayer.
How
people were really connecting the record with what I was doing live and just wanted to come see it, you know?
When people are at a show, they're there because they get it. They're there because they understand what I'm saying. And to stand on stage, I can look out into the crowd and see a group of people who are just saying, by their being there, I get it. So there's not a lot of buffer between the people who are in front of the stage and me being on stage. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you again later. Take care. Thank you.
Just want you to know that your music speaks to me. It really does. Because of you, I changed the way I play guitar.
A friend of mine said, check out John Mayer. I'm like, all right, recommend any songs? She told me 2 or 3. Checked it out, loved him.
I heard of John Mayer because she's blasting it in the bathroom.
He's so unique, and he kind of sends a message that you don't get with a lot of artists today. And you can just like feel his music.
I just feel like the people who kind of grab onto what I'm doing, whether that gets exponentially larger or whether it doesn't, I think to be a fan right now is to sort of buy in at the IPO of what this all is. And even for me too, I got to make my first record very young, which is great because I now get to mark my time with records to be 25 or 26 or 27 or 28 and hopefully have people follow me there as they get older.
I want to look out in the crowd when I'm 50 and my fans are 46, 47, 40, 36, and know we all came up together and it was the same intent. And that intent is just to give people something to get excited about, and then at the same time to kind of sell them on me, like, let me be the guy to do this for you every year. I got no problem with that, man. I got no problem with being date night one night.
Rock 103.7 just before about 7:40. In the studio with John Mayer playing tonight.
That's right.
At the Legion Field.
It was the last show on the tour, and it was at the field at UGA, and everybody showed up. Legion Field.
Now you have a new album called Room for Squares.
Room for Squares. It comes out September 18th on Columbia Records.
Mm-hmm.
So for all the people who've been trying to find it in their respective indie record stores, it'll be, I'm told it'll be in Walmarts and Targets and everywhere, so it won't be hard to find it.
Dear Casey, Tim Bryant from Bogart, Georgia, asks, could you please play No Such Thing? Well, Tim, just for you, here's John Mayer with No Such Thing, rocketing up the charts at number 212 on the top 40.
Welcome to the real world, she said to me condescendingly.
For me, it was like, it's time to start playing songs for people and not staying in the simulator. I want to get out of the simulator and I want to fly the plane, you know?
Right.
When we talk about success, it's not so much about this synthetic arrival of whatever money you make or whatever, you know, how many hands you shake in a night. It's really about that success that you said you were going to do something, you actually did it. You know, like 2 years ago, if you'd said you're going to be signed to Columbia, you're going to play 6 weeks at a time on the road, you're going to do 200 shows in a year, probably more than that by the time we're done, I would say, how the hell do you do that? But it can be done, and that's the successful part, is that it's the only thing in my life I haven't quit, and it's the only thing in my life I said I was going to do, and I did it, and I'm doing it, and it's kind of cool to know that most people probably wouldn't be able to stay on the road that long.
I want to run, I want to scream, I just found out there's no such thing. I just can't wait till my 10-year reunion. I'm gonna bust down the double doors, and when I stand on these tables before you, you will know what all this time was for.
Thanks.
Very good. John,
Thank you.
John Mayer playing tonight, Legion Field.
Tonight. You have just about enough time to take a shower and rip the tags off your new clothes and come on down.